You can go ahead if you need to go.
Huh?
You need to second.
I just need to talk to John.
Okay. Just a second here. Got started just a little early. It's okay. Yeah. I put it on pause for a second. That's okay. Yep, no problem. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May 2020 Lebanon Redevelopment Commission meeting. I'm sorry, March. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Wishing it was May. Feels like May.
Not that far into baseball season yet.
Man. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Corey?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Corey? Let the meeting minutes show that all are in attendance. And our next item is approval of meeting minutes from last month. Have all the commissioners received a copy of the meeting minutes? I will hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is old business. We do not have any. Are there any comments from the commissioners for old business? Okay. Next item is new business. The first item on the new business agenda is mobility planning for Lebanon Business Park. Mayor Gentry.
Good evening, Commission. Wanted to come before you tonight. There's been an idea kind of circulating since really I actually came into office. Periodically I go out in the business park and talk with our tenants and people that have invested heavily in our community and want to hear their feedback. And something that I've constantly heard is there's very little mobility other than if you're in a car out in the business park. So we do have people that do walk to work out in the business park. There are people that ride their bikes, but they're doing it on the roadways that essentially are designed for semi-trucks. So as you can imagine, that may be a little bit of a hazardous situation. I guess kind of going back in history, what happened is some of the first tenants of the business park were not required to install sidewalks. So then as we kind of went down the path and as our park is developed, it doesn't really make sense for us to mandate new business now to build sidewalks because essentially it'd be a sidewalk to nowhere. So, hearing that feedback from them, obviously the business park is right under the purview of the Redevelopment Commission and the TIF district. And we wanted to see if there's a way for us to take kind of a 30,000 foot view to really kind of think about how do we think regionally from a business park mobility standpoint. Would there be a way to come up with some type of pedestrian system, pedestrian and bicycle system for our business park. So we, I'm sure you're familiar with Ken Riemenschneider and Brandon Schrag. They helped us with our downtown plan. They actually, I think, submitted on our bicycle pedestrian master plan too as well, which we use that document a lot. They didn't do that, but again, probably should have. But anyway, they're very focused on in this area, and I think they'd be a good firm to kind of work with to help us kind of take that approach there. So really just wanted to kind of bring a concept to you guys of working with them to help us kind of lay the foundation essentially. We're not talking about actually building things yet, but the concept is to kind of have that master plan for how we would develop that for the business park. So you have received the proposal, the all-in evaluating conditions, doing all the meeting coordination, the visioning and design recommendations, plan production development would be about $44,000, and then also with a public open house, which I think would be valuable to try to get not just. I think it'd be valuable. Again, I'm always a proponent of public open houses, but also because there will be coordinating with the stakeholders But then also, I think having the public involved, the people, the employees that work in the businesses, having them be able to give their feedback too, I think would be helpful as well. So that's the all-in proposal. There's obviously some minor expenses, things like that, some travel expenses that would want to consider the overall funding. But that's the concept to help us kind of come up with that master plan, and then, as we have that plan, we can then start taking steps to make that into reality. So that's the concept, that's the idea. Any questions for me?
Commissioners, you have any questions? Go ahead, Dick. I can see it on
I
your...
got several. I'll make a comment first of all, and I take quite often several drives throughout the community on the weekends and so forth, and I've been through the business park several times and so forth, and I've always thought that same thing, where are the sidewalks, where's the trails, and so forth, in case people are walking, in case they want to get out of the office and go exercise, where is it? Okay. And where are the connections to every building out here? So I think this is a great idea. But as I sit here and I think about it, I think about, okay, this is a great idea. Okay, so things probably to think about and consider is, where's the trailhead at? You've got 32, you got 39. Most of the people that I have seen, I don't know if they're really headed to the business park. They're headed over 32, taking 32 out. I see a lot of people walking over that bridge. Is that a future pedestrian bridge idea somewhere to get people off the highway, whatever? One that gets me thinking offhand is the one at Westfield right now that goes over 32, the trail there. Where's the trailhead going to be? Is there going to be a trailhead at either spot for the person that likes to drive in and wants to take his bike and ride clear across the path or walk or whatever? Where's that trailhead, that parking spot going to be to get to there? Just how do we get there? You got 32, you got 39. How do we get back from town? One of the things that always I could never understand is how we have a sidewalk on 39 Bridge. It's a sidewalk to nowhere because we can't get to the bridge from any sidewalk in Lebanon, and there's no way to get to the other side, out to there. And we see a lot of truckers walking from Flying J over to Wendy's or downtown to get their goods or whatever because they don't want to shop at Flying J or whatever. So I've seen a lot of that. How do we get to there? And so those are some of the things I would think about. I think it's a great idea. I think it's been should have happened a long time ago. We should have thought of this when we were building the park. But trails weren't the biggest thing back then, so.
Well, and I'm not trying to speak for Ken, but, I think those are all great questions. I think that going through this process will help us develop those. I think based on the public engagement, based on the discussions with the businesses, I think we'll be able to hear, what is the primary way to the park, right?
Right.
Now, maybe there's an alternative too that we connected north to the Big Four Trail, which already has a crossing under 65, right? So I think those are all valid discussions. That's kind of what we'll try to hopefully flush out through this process and to come up with that kind of regional kind of solution for the area.
Yeah, I think those people there will have a lot of thoughts in that direction on what's the best way to go, so.
Is there any consideration for requiring new sidewalk with some sort of maybe shared program like we're doing residentially for future businesses coming in saying, hey, we're working on a program here, part of your cost for your startup coming into Lebanon is going to be 15 grand in sidewalk. It's a small percentage, but it could go a long ways for us.
Yeah, so the challenge with that is we essentially have 1 to 2 more locations left in the business park for construction. So, I don't think it's necessarily fair to make someone at the very back of the park construct a sidewalk in front of their property when there's literally none of their neighbors have that. Exactly. And that's kind of why I think, because we haven't built sidewalks out in front of every single business, maybe, I think it actually does kind of create an opportunity that maybe there is a more efficient way to do it with some type of a trail network, right? So it's not necessarily a sidewalk right along the road is maybe not the solution. Maybe it's a path that kind of cuts through different parts of it off the road that kind of is maybe more efficient than building, a 5-foot sidewalk on every single road that's out there, right? So, I understand that. Usually the businesses that are locating in Lebanon, it's not a high on their list. I would say it becomes more of a discussion once they've been located here from a workforce standpoint. And I think, frankly, from a community standpoint, I think giving people multimodal transportation access is something that I think the city and the Redevelopment Commission has a role in to help with that. So, it's kind of, we're trying to balance, if I could get a time machine and go back and say the first person had to build sidewalks, then I would do that. But don't have a time machine, I wasn't the mayor then. So we got to kind of deal with the situation we have with us today, and I think it's taking that larger view of that, so.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
just for clarification, this was initiated by our current residents of the business park, or is this a vision of an extension of our already very attractive amenities program that we've expanded here in Lebanon?
This actually started, I'd say, close to 4 years ago, actually, with my first visit out to Hachette. We were talking with them, and one of the things that came up with them was pedestrian connectivity was a big issue for them. They actually have multiple buildings in the business park, and we were working with them, and we wanted to hear feedback, and that was an issue that they brought up, was that they have employees that are just trying to walk, less than half a mile away to go to their other building, but, they hop in their car because they don't feel comfortable walking alongside roads with all these semis in it. Now, in a related discussion there, at that time too, Hachette was looking to expand in Lebanon and make a new investment, and we kind of tried to do what Caleb said. We offered them kind of a nominal tax abatement for their new investment, or we said, or you can essentially do pretty much a 10x worth of sidewalks that you kind of dictate to where you want them to go to connect all your facilities. They picked the smaller tax abatement instead. So that's kind of the trade-off we get into, and that's kind of where it becomes challenging. It's on their wish list, but dollars and cents wise, they don't always, the accountants don't always see that on the budget side. So.
Just as a reminder, how many employees do we have currently in the business park? Estimation, within 5.
I'd say around about 3,500 probably,
Okay,
if not more.
very good.
I know Hachette has about 600 itself. And then
I thought it was closer to 38.
So it kind of adds up quickly, yep.
Do we know what kind of percentage of that approximate 3,500 is from Lebanon residents?
Back when we normally look at data, we can't break it down based on city. We can break down Boone County.
Sure.
About 40% of the employees in the business park live in Boone County.
Okay.
Now, again, it's kind of a chicken or the egg too, because I think that if we had great pedestrian bicycle access to our business park, there may be some people that maybe don't own a car, but if they had that infrastructure built in, they may be more likely to access that from a workforce standpoint. So, Dick's right, 32, 65, 39 all become pretty significant barriers if you don't have a car or a safe way to get there, right? So, almost as a workforce development initiative, having it connected via trails, sidewalks, I think hopefully could people that maybe don't own a car or have to carpool, having another option for them to get to the business park could be helpful as well.
Additional questions?
Just a couple of quick points. So through my time with the EDC and working with Molly and her team over there, this is one of the top points that came up time after time after time. It was access to work, and then number 2 was childcare. So when you look at our business park and fostering growth there, those are 2 big hurdles looking to make an impact. As we look at different shareholders or stockholders in this, I would bring up Department of Corrections. So as you look at some of those individuals that may have to walk out there for other reasons, I think that would be a huge community partner for us. I know it's not necessarily the city, but they are within our city, and they maintain a lot of individuals that work out in the business park. So as you look at stakeholders, that would be a very good partner for you guys to take. But I'm excited to see this addition to our city.
Any other comments or questions for Mayor or the team?
And we do have Ken and Brandon, if they have any questions for them. Again, they're more experts in this. I'm just the one kind of with the idea with it. So.
I would imagine the public open house is pretty, I mean, you're going to come in with a conceptual design and provide some basic information on where you're proposing to put it all, and idea of cost and...
Correct, yeah, those are all kind of things that we can kind of dig into essentially with this process.
Sure.
And then, funding it, of course, is a different discussion.
Sure.
But, as with everything, you got to take that kind of first step to kind of put the idea on paper. And then, that idea may change over time, but, the first step helps us kind of get to that larger goal.
Dr. Coder?
Mayor, do we have an anticipated timeline of completion of this? I guess I could ask.
If we were to make a resolution and approve it?
Yes.
Brandon is looking.
It's in the 6 months, so.
Okay.
6 months.
To add a little background history to exactly what you're talking about, several years ago, the school corporation explored the opportunity of possibly providing a food truck as for our culinary arts program, you may recall. And one of the issues that we heard from members of the business park was the lack of opportunity for their employees to move without getting into their cars, and that was one of the things. Now, we didn't decide to do that, but there was a great desire from the people in the business park to have that because they couldn't move without getting in their cars. They have 30 minutes to eat, or now this is not about eating, but this is about ease of moving from point A to point B safely, and if we could enhance that. So there has been an ongoing concern that I would agree with everything that's been said at this point, that there's probably a need. This would simply help flesh out that need into a little more realistic opportunity that we can go ahead and pursue there if we see it's feasible.
Yep. Well, and I'd say too, I think we have, when our business park was started, I think society has kind of shifted quite a bit from the mid-'90s, right? I think we're still very car-focused. Obviously, today, we have a lot more health initiatives with people that are using other types of transportation. So most new business parks that are being developed, they don't let them get out of building sidewalks. They do incorporate these trails into that system. I know that's always a big selling point that Creekside and Zionsville tries to use, that they have all these incorporated trails, things like that as part of that development. So I think the newer type business parks that are developing, you look at the ones at Brownsburg, things like that, they do incorporate those trails and pedestrian mobility as part of that development. So hopefully we're trying to fix something that we should have done a while ago.
And perhaps that trailhead can be at a food truck park. I know a guy that had that idea once.
I do have another question. In the exhibit, it shows a bigger picture of the area with I-65 running right down the middle of it.
Yeah.
I would presume that the study area would not only include just the business park, but, and getting over that barrier of 65 or 39, but also a couple blocks from it on that connectivity as well.
Correct, yeah, and that's kind of why you're right, Caleb, the study area is slightly larger than the business park. You can't really see it as much maybe in the black and white, but on the computer, it's where it's red, you can see it. It does kind of consider both sides of 65, and if we are talking about a pedestrian bridge, if we are talking about, what are the opportunities, those are all topics that we kind of have to look at the larger trail network to how to incorporate that.
I really don't want to see people jumping out at the light at the exit to drop someone off to go to work.
Agreed, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because the trailhead starts there.
Exactly, right, so, how does it interconnect, right, and, how do you phase it as well? I think that's a valid point too, right, because maybe there are some businesses that may want it more than others, right? So,
Sure.
Those are all things we can kind of flush out, kind of through this process as well.
Okay. Additional comments or questions? I will entertain a motion for a resolution to be drafted, correct? Motion to approve the contract?
So point of clarification. So if, in the motion, if whoever makes it, we're looking basically at 45,000, not to exceed at this point with the addition of an optional 4,500?
I think we, when I was looking at it, if we did a motion to not exceed 50,000, that would include the public hearing and then some of the ancillary mileage, travelage expenses, things like that.
I move we approve as proposed, not to exceed 50,000 pending final legal review
In authorization.
and authorization for president to sign.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Commission.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Excited, I remember the
Thank you.
legal review, I forgot the president.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the facade improvement request for 215 West Washington Street, and Derek is here to present.
Good evening,
Thank you,
Commission.
Derek.
Thank you for allowing me to present this application tonight. What you have in front of you is 215 West Washington Street, as you mentioned, Caleb. This is really Phase 2 of a project that is bringing Online Resources, Inc. into our downtown. They've utilized 2 buildings in order to make their operation work. They're actually side by side. If you were to not be from this area and drive past these buildings, you'd probably even think they were connected. But there's about, I don't know, Jay, what is there, about a foot in between the 2 buildings? So 18 inches. So this is known as the old Modern Cleaners, correct? Yeah, Modern Cleaners. So tonight, they are asking for some funds to help with the facade renovation. They received a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission at the February meeting for replacing existing non-historic storefront windows with a more efficient, modern version, and adding new storefront windows facing West Washington Street where there are currently none, and I'll show you some elevations here in a second, and removing the drive-up window and replacing it with repurposed brick from the building facade. So it's kind of nice that they're adding new windows and being able to take that brick and throw it back into some other parts of the building, so it should be a seamless look, really. Here are some elevations. This is, let's see if I can make that better for you all. There is the current view, and they did receive a grant for the awning removal, so they already have that in place. And this was the second phase of this project. So there it is, east view, with the awning removed and the window and drive-through window removed, and the new windows on the Washington Street side. So that gives you a pretty good idea of how that building will be freshened up after this project is completed. There is another view currently of the front of the building, more or less, and proposed. So very complementary to the building.
Derek, could you clarify again, did you say there are technically 2 separate plots and 2 separate addresses?
They're 2 separate parcels.
Okay.
Correct. The estimates that came in tonight, 2 estimates. One from Alt Construction. They have done work in our downtown. They did the Talent Factory building. Sorry, maybe make that look a little bit better for everybody at home. And the second was from Crahan Construction, who's also done work in the downtown. You know, sometimes when you get into these discrepancies on the numbers, they are apples to apples estimates. It just depends on how busy a contractor may be. You know, sometimes you get a contractor who's on the higher end and just has a bunch of work, and their number is, you know, if it's worth my while, I can squeeze it in. Alt Construction, I have a feeling, is just in a better position right now to do the work, so they're probably closer to the actual cost. So, taking that into account, Alt Construction is the low bid at $23,300. When you add that to the awning removal that the applicant has already received of $3,400, that puts the total facade numbers at $26,700 into Category 5. With the owner share at $5,500, and they received zero the owner presented $0 in the awning removal because it was in that first category. So in category 5, the owner's share, including the awning removal, is $5,500 with a max grant of $24,500. So the owner's share at $5,500, staff recommendation is to award $17,800 for the window project. And the applicant is here tonight to answer any questions.
Could you go over that math again one more time for me?
Sure.
please?
Yep. Yep. All right.
I lost
So
you there for a second.
low bid, $23,300.
Got that. They've already been awarded the 7560 and the 3400 as a separate project on a separate
Yeah,
building.
so the way we've interpreted it, thing since the change in the roofing language is roofing kind of stands on its own. So not included in the facade calculations when you plug them into the scope of the project.
Okay.
So flushing that out, when you start talking only about facade, it's the $23,300 plus the $3,400.
Which puts you in the category 5.
Which puts you in
I follow you now. Okay.
category 5. So their total facade renovations are at $26,700, which is just slightly above the minimum of category 5.
Okay. Comments or questions from the commission? None?
And I really got to say, I mean, this is, this business moving into our downtown is such a unique opportunity for our downtown. They've been here before, and I think they've kind of told you what they do, but just to reiterate, this is next level paying jobs. I mean, this is exactly what we want to see in our downtown. So to have the opportunity to bring them here, I think is tremendous. It's exactly what redevelopment should be in our downtown.
So, just so I'm understanding correctly, there are 2 separate buildings. We've already awarded the awning on one.
Yep.
The removal of the awning. And in that same location, the window, on the same building, the windows is what's requested now.
Yes, correct.
Okay. From my understanding, the rules for the grant program was 1 application per building, right? Does the commission recall that? I'm trying to.
No, the language says each application builds upon itself. That's why the 3,400 is being added to the 26.
Okay.
There's no
That's where
language
you're
in there that
going
says
into
only
that
1 application.
category.
Now, it maxes out at that, 200,000 mark if an applicant were to get that high. And you start adding the owner share and calculating all of that and taking all that into account. But it's the max amount the building is eligible for grant-wise that caps it, not the number of applications.
Okay.
So it gradually moves up in category.
It does.
Basically.
So gradually, if they continue to move on, the
Right.
owner share becomes greater.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Comments or questions from the commission?
The 17.8,
Yep.
so the total being 26.7.
Correct.
Owner share 5,500.
Yep.
So I'm off by just a little bit on the thinking there, I believe.
So 23.3 plus 34 is 26.7. That falls in the category.
Right, 26.7 less the 5,500
Yeah.
is like 21,000. Are you then less the 3,400 we've already, is that how that math is working?
Hold on 1 second.
That's 21.2 is what I got.
So the 5,500
Less the 3,400.
plus the 17.8 is the 23,300.
So it's less the 3,400 that was already awarded?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Yeah,
Cool.
so that-
the
that gets you to
17.8
17.8.
makes it whole.
That
Okay.
3,400 category, they didn't have to put any money into it.
Right,
Yeah,
right. I was just making the math add up. and it
Yeah, so
wasn't
just to
working
give you an
for a second.
example, if you didn't build that upon itself,
Bang.
the 23,000 would have fallen into category 4. So that would reduce the owner share to 3,500, but when you add them together, it increases that owner share to 5,500.
Perfect.
Yeah, believe me, I went over this math several times prior to submitting it to Joe, and then even I came in a little early, and I'm like, did I do those numbers right? And I'm back there, and yeah, okay, yeah. Ran it every way I could, and it all came up the same way.
So one more time, our total investment to this point on both projects will be 28,760?
both projects. That would be accurate. $28,760, yes.
And the owner's contribution at this point will be
Owner's contribution at this
23.
point, yes,
24,
640.
140?
23,140.
23,140?
Yep.
And that's fine, I support it, I think in order to eliminate some of the math confusion, because it comes close to looking like we're splitting the project. I don't think we are, but just maybe in the future, we might want to get those numbers combined together.
Yeah, and we're at, I mean, Caleb and I have certainly been discussing tweaking the scale. What have we been going on, like 8 months now? So trying to get it somewhere, right? So this is ongoing conversation, and we fully expect to make some tweaks as we go along here.
I feel like that's how the jokes start. The engineer and the planner sit down to do the math.
All right, commissioners, any further comments for Derek?
Leave the accountant out of the room, right?
I will
Right, yeah. No
entertain a
bankers.
motion.
I move that we support the facade grant recommendation as presented.
I will second that. Any further discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, the next item for new business is Resolution 2020-01, exchanging Haas machines at Vincennes University, and Dan Flick with Vincennes is here to present.
Hi, y'all. How you doing?
Hi there.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me here. Basically, this resolution is for exchange of personal property, which is RDC or the City of Lebanon owns 10 machines in the Gene Haas facility. And our intention is to update as much as possible the equipment for, for technology and to keep updated. These are limited use machines. They're lightly used, so they're basically being sold. And then whatever they're sold for is basically charged against the new machines. And then we take, Vincennes University takes care of any rigging and also any differential in the costing. So there would be nothing that the RDC would have to approve as far as funding goes. So it's basically just a exchange of technology, exchange of new toys, basically, so.
So you're just notifying us that you're going to basically sell our equipment for an updated equipment, and you'll cover the difference?
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Sounds like a great plan to me. I mean,
So if we had
any additional comments or any additional information you want to share, or commissioners?
I met with him last year and took a tour of the facility, actually the very first time I'd ever been through, and he showed me the equipment that was needed to be exchanged at that point, and sounds like a good program that we need to keep up with, so.
Yeah, I know it's been a great asset to the community. There's at least one person up here whose child has greatly benefited from that. And it's not anything out of the ordinary, but I mean, Mia can attest that her son's going to graduate with an associate's degree because of this program. It's a phenomenal program.
Yeah, he's over at
So,
the facility right now with the open house, so.
I know we're doing great things over there, and I want to keep it moving forward, so.
Okay.
You have any other questions, commissioners, or comments? Okay, I will enter, yes, Rob, will you read the resolution, please?
Thanks, Mr. President. Commission, this is resolution approving the exchange of personal property 2020-01, and it states that the Redevelopment Commission purchased personal property. It's all listed as on Exhibit A, and it wishes to exchange for the personal property with Haas Factory Outlet for the property listed on Exhibit B. The new personal property will cost approximately $72,830, and Haas Factory Outlet will provide the exchange credit for $66,000, and Vincennes University and Gene Haas Training and Education Center will pay the balance of the personal property. Wherefore, again, this resolution states that the Redevelopment Commission will execute the appropriate documents to transfer the ownership of personal property. to the Haas Factory Outlet, and then Vincennes University Gene Haas Training and Education Center will assume all costs to exchange the personal property for the new personal property, and Haas Factory Outlet will transfer the ownership of the new personal property to the Redevelopment Commission. And then this resolution will authorize the President of the Redevelopment Commission to authorize or to execute any other documents that would be necessary to effectuate the transfer.
Any further comments or questions from the commission? I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-01, exchanging Haas machines at Vincennes University.
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2020-01, the exchange of Haas machines at Vincennes University Training Center.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and
Thank you, Dan.
keep up the good work.
Yeah, good night.
You too. The next item, do the commissioners have any further comments or questions in general before we move on to claims? No? Okay. The next item on the agenda are claims. Have the commissioners received a copy and reviewed? I will move that we accept the claims as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And the last item is we adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. The next meeting will be in April on the 13th. Thank you.
Documents we need to, do you have anything for us to sign?